with your old device. This is best done with your old device and your new device both on at the same time. One of the things I see a lot of people do is they get rid of their old device and then they try to set up their new one, which is a slightly more difficult process. If you have any trepidation about changing to a new device after this, feel free to click on some of the links. I have links in here specifically for iPhones and Android phones that you can follow along. And if you still are like unsure, you can always come to a Wednesday tech drop-in, which is noon to 1, as long as you sign up by 1 generally. And bring your device, and I can show you how to go through it. One of the negatives with coming on a Wednesday to do it is oftentimes the device transfer takes a long time. So I would be able to show you how to get it started, but then you would kind of have to sit down in a corner or wherever and kind of go through the process. Just because of based on how many pictures you have, how many files you have, it can take anywhere from 10 minutes to overnight. So we're going to cover why planning your data transfer is crucial, your general best practices, and we're kind of going to give a step-by-step guide for iPhone, Android, Windows, and Mac. We will also have a section on passwords, some app-specific transfer options, and a lot of trade-in options and how you can do a trade-in. Oftentimes, if someone's using one of the larger wireless manufacturers or wireless companies, like Verizon or AT&T, they'll often have a pretty big incentive for trading in your device. So I'm just going to quickly go over how that process works. So why does this matter? Well, as I stated, some people come in and they have made the slight miscalculation of wipe first. I am very happy that people are now wiping their device before they're trading it in or wiping their device before they're giving it to a family member, but you really want to get your newer device set up before that. So if you wipe your old device, it just makes the data transfer much harder. And kind of the key takeaway is just keep your old device fully functional until you are happy with how your new device operates. If you don't do this, you can kind of forget to back up, or you can lose photos or documents. You may have to rebuild your contact list, which is always a pain. If you are using your phone to sign in to apps, or you're using your face to automatically sign into apps, you definitely want to make sure that your passwords are saved so that on your new device you can enjoy the same passwordless experience. The other thing is, and this kind of ties into apps, but if you remove your old device, sometimes you'll need your old device to authenticate to your new device in order to transfer things like WhatsApp or authentication apps. So if you try to set these applications up independent of your old device, it can take a very long time. For example, if you only have an iPhone and you don't have a Mac, and you buy a new iPhone, you get rid of the old iPhone before doing any setup, it can take up to a week to get your new iPhone set up, because that's how long it'll take Apple to verify who you are in order to give you access to your account back. And I personally have done that. So it happens to everyone. It's not something you would often think about. So general best practices, and again, a lot of this information is kind of going to be, we'll go over it multiple times. That's partially just so you remember it, and it's also so that whenever you go home, and if you were to reference this slideshow, you can kind of see all of this information in one slide, as opposed to having to jump around a lot. So first step, general best practice, don't wipe your old device, keep it charged. Make sure both devices are charged. Oftentimes transfers like this won't happen if your device is unplugged and under like 60% battery. So you want to, whenever you're transferring data, always make sure both devices are charged and plugged in. Generally, when transferring, it'll ask you to connect to Wi-Fi. So if you have a new iPhone, it'll go through the setup process. It will ask you to put in the Wi-Fi, connect to Wi-Fi, and then it will ask you about transferring. So you want to make sure wherever you're located has good Wi-Fi. If your house doesn't have the best Wi-Fi, the library does have pretty fast Wi-Fi. So you can always sit there in the comfort of the library and do the transfer. There are multiple ways to back up everything, which we will go over in the next slide, but just bullet points here. For cloud options, there are a lot. We've done classes on specific cloud options before. If you're using a Mac, iCloud is always a good option. If you're using an Android device, Google Drive is always a good option. And then if we're talking about computers, you can also use iCloud or Google Drive, but then you also get options to kind of the more desktop options, which are OneDrive and Dropbox. You can also do the backing up with a USB drive. So that's like a small little thumbstick if the only thing you're backing up is a small number of photos or documents. Or if you're backing up an entire computer and a lot of photos or documents or videos, things like that, then you can also get an external hard drive. If anyone needs recommendations for external hard drives, just let me know at the end. Generally, if you recognize the brand manufacturer, it'll be a good option. Just don't pick something with like 5 random letters that you've never heard of before from Amazon. One thing that Mac does a little bit differently is they allow you to for computers specifically, they allow you to plug in your old computer to your new computer. And we can kind of go over that. Or you can always just do a manual file transfer by plugging the two devices together. Before you do anything, you always want to make sure that you have all of your account information. So this would be your Apple ID, your Google account, so that's your Gmail. If you have Microsoft products, you want to make sure that you have all of your Microsoft information, all of the passwords. You want to make sure you have all of your passwords for your banking information, for all of your social media accounts. And as always, I find a way to plug password managers in, and we can go over that as well. But basically, a password manager allows you to keep all of your passwords stored in a secure, safe environment. So this is independent of any device. If you lose your device, you'll still have access to your passwords, is the big benefit of a password manager. So managing passwords, lots of options. Again, there are password managers. I generally consider there to be 2 tiers of password managers. The first tier are the ones that are built in. So this will be things like iCloud Keychain. This is if you have Apple devices, and Google Password Manager if you have Android devices or a Chrome computer. And if you're using Microsoft's ecosystem, they have a password manager built into their browser Edge. I personally prefer third-party, which would be options like LastPass, 1Password, Bitwarden, or ProtonPass. One of the nice things about these are they're cross-platform. They will work on your iPhone, they will work on your Android phone, they will work on your Chromebook, they will work on your Windows or Mac. They'll basically work on whatever, so you're not necessarily tied to a specific brand or device. And once again, the reason why you would do this is It allows you to securely store your passwords. It allows you to sync your passwords across devices. One of the not so fun aspects of it that I try to bring up sometimes is password managers are very good for estate planning. If you have a password manager of a family member, and that family member is no longer able to access or give you their passwords for you to do banking information or check on their mortgage, things like that, you'll have access to it if you set up a password manager for them and you have access to all of their passwords. Otherwise, the process is unfortunately difficult. It also allows you to save things or share things like Netflix passwords. So person A can change their Netflix password and person B doesn't need to ask them for the new password. They can just see it in the password manager. Do we have any questions about password managers before I go on to authentication apps? And I realize this is fairly dense. All right. I have talked about password managers so much that people no longer have questions about them. Perfect. All right. Authenticator apps. Hmm?
You're inundating us.
Background so that you can really focus and have so much joy looking at this presentation. Authenticator apps, generally these are used for multi-factor. So for example, whenever you sign into your bank, oftentimes you will sign in with your username and your password, and then it will send you a code, for example, to your phone. That's kind of a two-factor or a multi-factor authentication method. There are newer ways besides the cell phone message, which are authentication apps. There's Microsoft Authenticator, there's Google Authenticator, there's Authy, there's a whole bunch of them. But one of the main issues with them is if you remove your device or you wipe your device that had the authentication app on it, setting it up again is a massive pain. Generally, what you would prefer to do is in the settings of your authentication app, there is an option to transfer. You would click on that option and you would go to your new device and then you would complete the transfer. It allows you to seamlessly transition to a new device as opposed to fighting tooth and nail to get all of your authentications back. And just one aside, because I see this a lot on Wednesdays, is your Apple ID is very confusing. Your Apple ID is oftentimes your email, but your Apple ID should have a different password than your email. But it can be really confusing because it's both of those options are using your email address as the username. So whenever you have a new device, especially if you're using an iPhone, I really want to make sure that people know what their Apple ID password is and their email password. Because sometimes people will come in for help and they will only know the email password, but not the Apple ID password. And then we have to go through the recovery process for your Apple ID password. The link at the top of the page specifically goes to Apple's support article for how to do an iPhone to iPhone transfer. That process shows you the quick start method, which is method 1, which is the easiest method in my opinion. Basically, in layman's terms, the process is very simple. You have the old phone in one hand, you have the new phone in your other hand, you have them near each other, and you hit transfer, and you follow the prompts. It will transfer everything from your old phone to your new phone. It is basically the ideal way to do it. So you have them both plugged into power, you set them on a table, you start the transfer, you walk away, you come back, and magically your new phone is 100% set up. Now I realize that is an ideal scenario. Sometimes when people are buying a new phone or a new device, it's because their current one is broken or dead. In that case, you would go with option 2 or method 2. On your old phone, you want to make sure that you have iCloud backups turned on. And then on the new phone, whenever you are doing the setup process, it will prompt you to restore from iCloud backup. And then you will be able to hit that button and it will bring all of that information down to your new phone. The negative for this is that oftentimes, in order to fully do this process, you will need to have a fairly significant amount of iCloud storage, which would mean that you would be paying for the iCloud storage because it can only back up the amount of data that you have access to. And if you're not paying for it, that amount of data is only 5 gigabytes, which is not that much. That's basically enough to upload or to store like a couple photos. I mean, a couple thousand photos, but if you use your phone to take pictures, you'll hit through that cap in no time. Method 3, I have it written down just for context. I really don't recommend it. Basically, it involves creating a backup of your phone on your computer and then loading that backup onto your new phone. If you have to do it, I'm glad it works, but I would definitely recommend method 1 in pretty much any scenario. Next slide is the exact same thing for Android phones. At the top, we have Android.com's guide to doing the data transfer between Android devices. It's a little more complicated than the Apple one, but it's very similar. So on the old Android, you would have to go to Settings, then System, then Backup, and make sure that backup to Google Drive is on. On new Android, you would sign into your same Google account and then hit Restore from Backup. This will restore all the apps, all the call history, settings, contacts, SMS messages, photos, documents. It will restore everything. Once again, this requires the amount of storage needed to be on your account, which may or may not require you to pay money for the amount of data that you need. However, with Google Drive, you get 15 gigabytes free, which is 3 times the amount that Apple gives you. So oftentimes you'll be able to make do with that amount of data. Method 2 is a manufacturer-specific tool. So one of the benefits iPhones have is the only people who make them is Apple, so they can kind of control the entire process. But if you're going from a Samsung phone to a Samsung phone or a Google Pixel to a Google Pixel, oftentimes those manufacturers will have their own tools for doing the transfer, kind of like Apple's method 1. So like Apple's Quick Start, Google Pixel, which is what I personally use for my personal phone, has a very similar process of you just lay your new phone next to your old phone and it will automatically transfer the data. The other option you can do for Android phones is you can connect them with a USB-C to USB-C cable, as long as your phone has a USB-C port, and you would set the old device to be essentially allow the incoming USB connection. You can use the new device to go onto the old device and pull data. It's not fun. I would highly recommend using method 1 or method 2. And then that would allow you to manually drag and drop files and folders between the devices. Are there any
Tim?
questions
Yeah,
on that?
Tim, Question, what, when you're getting a new phone, you're trading in your old one?
What was the question?
When you're getting a new phone, you're trading in your old phone.
Yes, oftentimes.
But then how do you do this procedure unless you do it right there, at the shop?
Yeah, so we have a slide that goes over it that's coming up. Essentially, with most of the and you basically put the old phone in the new phone's box or in a pre-packaged thing, and you send it back within 30 days. So you don't necessarily have to, at the same time you receive the new phone, you don't have to give the old phone at that same time. All right, so Windows computers. As always, and we've done classes on kind of cloud storage, but you can always use cloud storage. These are things like OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox. The benefit for the cloud sync is the scenario in which your old computer falls or gets water spilled on it or breaks for some reason. All of your files and folders that you are syncing or backing up with your cloud storage will still be accessible to you on the new computer. You would basically just, for example, with Google Drive, you would sign back into Google Drive on the new computer and it would pull all the files down. The other option, or another option, is external hard drive. This is just you buy one of those external hard drives. You can buy them for as little as $60, and you can just manually copy your important folders. Your documents folder, desktop folder, downloads folder, pictures, videos, whatever you want to copy. You can copy it to the hard drive, and then you can plug that hard drive into your new computer and transfer the files that way. It's a little bit more manual. I'm just going to skip over to number 4 real quick and talk about third-party tools. The point I want to say with third-party migration tools is that oftentimes they will come with the external hard drive. So if you buy a hard drive from someone like Seagate or Western Digital, there will oftentimes be a little executable on the hard drive that you can double click, run through the process, and it will basically automate the process of backing up your old computer. Once you've let that process run, you can then plug the hard drive into your new computer and then kind of reverse the process and put all the files on the new computer. If you are paying for something like OneDrive, you can use Microsoft Account Sync, which would be you would sign in using the same Microsoft account on both computers, and then you would hit Settings, Accounts, and Sync. This will transfer kind of some of the information. So it'll transfer basically how your computer is set up, and it will also transfer your saved passwords. It won't necessarily transfer files though, which is a negative. One thing you'll realize is iPhone to iPhone, Android to Android, Mac to Mac, or Windows to Windows. They all haven't really reinvented the wheel too much. You can do very similar things on any of the devices. So with the Mac to Mac transfer, they've just made it a little bit more straightforward than with Windows. They have a tool called Migration Assistant. You can get to it on your Mac by going to Applications and then Utilities. And basically all it does is it packages your current Mac in a nice little ball of information, and it'll ask you where do you want it to go, and you just tell it go to the new computer. And this will transfer everything. The biggest thing for this is it will also transfer your applications. So if you have something like Adobe installed, if you have, Microsoft Office installed, it will also transfer that. So you won't even need to re-download applications. Method 2 for Mac is iCloud Sync. Once again, this is if you are paying for a large quantity of storage, generally 1 terabyte or 2 terabytes, I think is the new baseline. You can have your old computer with iCloud Sync kind of backing everything up on your computer to the cloud. That means if your current computer dies, you can just sign it back into iCloud on the new computer and it will download all of that information back. Method 3, and this is one of the only times when I'll say that feel free to do method 3. Normally the method 3 is like, you can technically do it, but I recommend the other two. In this case, method 3 is actually pretty nice. It's the time machine backup and restore. If you're using a Mac, there's no real reason not to use Time Machine unless you just don't want to have an external hard drive. What you do is you get an external hard drive, you plug it into your computer. In the upper right-hand corner, you will click on the Time Machine icon. It will often pop up whenever you put in a new hard drive or a new external hard drive. You will turn on Time Machine, and it will just, every single time you have that hard drive plugged into your computer, it will create a backup of your computer. It's able to do this because it only saves the changes that you make between backups. So you can back up a computer for a very long amount of time. And just like the name implies, you can use your time machine to go back a year and find a file that you deleted. And then in the context of transferring to a new computer, you can take that time machine backup, plug it into the new computer while you're setting it up, and it will prompt you to restore from a time machine backup. And it will essentially take everything on your old computer and set it up on your new computer, files and all. But once again, these processes can take a very long amount of time. Whenever I personally do them, I generally will just start the process and walk away. It's kind of like a watch pot never boils situation where just staring at it is just going to make you think, is it doing everything right? Is it working? So just kind of start it and walk away and let it do its thing. Do we have any questions on iPhone to iPhone, Android to Android, Windows or Mac backups? And once again, you can always come in on a Wednesday, and I can kind of go over the process in a little bit more detail if needed. All right, so specific app considerations. Oftentimes messaging apps like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Instagram, the process is easier if you can validate the new device using the old device. If you've ever seen a message say something to the effect of, hey, we appreciate you trying to sign in. Please go to, iPhone 10 and hit accept to validate. Basically, all that's doing is it's using your old device to double check in some form of multi-factor authentication that you are who you say you are and that you should have access to the application on your new device. For WhatsApp specifically, because this has happened a couple times and people have come in for help on it, you need to make sure that the chat backup is enabled. You have to then install WhatsApp on the new phone. You have to go through the setup process of verifying your number, and then you need to hit restore from backup. Once you hit restore from backup, you will essentially take your new phone and take a picture of the WhatsApp QR code on your old phone, and it will then transfer your data. If you do not do this, it takes a long amount of time. So the main takeaway from this is whenever you're setting up your new device, if you still have your old device available, just click through all of the apps that you use on the new phone or computer and make sure they all work. And then if you ever get a prompt asking you to verify who you are using your other device, as long as you do this pretty early on in the process, you'll still have your old device before you send it in or give it to someone else, and you'll be able to make the process a lot easier for you by doing that validation. In general, I don't recommend you doing like an automatic transfer for banking or financial apps. That's just me. I'm a little wary of any kind of banking information being in multiple places at the same time. But definitely once you install your preferred banking app on your phone, for example, you want to make sure that you can get into it before you kind of disconnect your old phone from being able to access it. And as always, password managers. If you have a password manager, that can help facilitate this process by having your passwords in a third location. All right, so trade-in policies. I personally use Verizon, so I'm more familiar with their trade-in policy. I do know AT&T's trade-in policy is very similar, and I believe the last time I checked, T-Mobile has a similar policy. Oftentimes, whenever a new phone comes out, they will have very nice incentives for a new phone if you trade in your old one. Most carriers will give you a window, like 30 days, to send in your old phone after you get your new one. This is partially to give you ample time to make sure that the new device works and that you don't need anything from your old device before you give it back. Just, you know, if you go in person to a store, you can always ask if they'll give you a box to trade in your phone with, or if they'll just let you come back to the store with your old phone at a later date to complete the trade-in. It's not an emergency. You never have to rush to send back your old device. You'll have ample amounts of time in order to do the transfer. Now, assuming your old device still works, this is kind of a final checklist that you can go over. You want to make sure that all of your photos, all of your documents, all of your contacts, all of your apps are working on your new phone. Can you sign into all of your accounts on your new phone or device? Once you have verified that, you will sign out of all of your accounts on your old device. You will sign out of iCloud, your Google account, your Microsoft account, and any other major services. You'll sign out of all of them. What this will do is this will hopefully stop those apps and services asking for your old phone to validate things. Once you have removed your accounts on your old device, and in some cases you have to remove your accounts like your Google account or your iCloud account from a device before you can wipe it, you want to do a factory reset on the old device. You can always Google your device's name and factory reset, and you'll be able to find a step-by-step instruction, but the process is fairly straightforward. On iPhone, you would go to Settings, General, Transfer or Reset, erase all content and settings. It will ask you to type in your PIN, and then it will go through the process of erasing all of your information from your phone. Android, you go to the same thing, Settings, System, Reset options, and then erase all data. Windows, same thing, reset this PC. Mac, erase your Mac. The reason why you want to do this is a lot of information is saved on your device, and if you're either trading it in or giving it to someone else, you want to make sure that they can't accidentally find your old passwords saved, or your old photos, or your old banking login information. You just want to make sure that you perform the factory reset. And once again, this process can take a long time depending on the size of your device. In general, I do this at the end of my day, and then I ignore it until the morning, and magically it's done. This was a shorter one, but we have ample time for questions or anything anyone would want to go over. I realize I kind of talked through that fairly fast, but I always like to leave a lot of time for people's individual scenarios.
Questions? I have a question. What if you have an old laptop or an old phone that, I mean, really old, that you never had to trade in for any reason? Can you just smash it and you know, get rid of it somehow?
Yeah, so unironically, this is what I like to use on 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 old devices. So, I'm kind of being funny, but I'm also 100% serious. The only thing you have to watch out for is the only thing you really want to smash is the storage. You do not want to puncture the battery, which is why this is a do at your own risk kind of thing. So batteries can explode, so you don't want to do that. But on newer computers, oftentimes, because generally computers are the ones you're going to be doing this with, generally the hard drive is going to look like this. It's like a little stick. And if you have any device that you need help with, more securely deleting the data, aka hitting with a hammer, feel free to bring it in on Wednesday. And I've helped plenty of people figure out where this little thing is hiding on their computer, because sometimes they like to hide them now.
Kim, what do you think about like recycling old devices? Like I know Staples has like a laptop recycling program where they say that they get rid of all your data. How do you feel about that?
I feel fairly good about that. So, if you perform a factory reset on your computer, I feel fairly confident that unless the FBI is interested in you, no one's really going to recover your data from that. So sometimes what places like Staples or Best Buy will do is they'll have a promotion where they will say, bring in any working laptop or bring in any working phone, and we'll give you $200 off your next purchase. That's kind of when I think the trade-in programs are the most valuable for older devices. But if you're concerned with just recycling, then it's definitely a viable option. You can also bring it to the Peterborough transfer station, and they have a pallet where they put the computers on to ship out for a similar process.
Thank you.
So Tim, when you factory reset to clean your data off your, I'm talking about a Windows PC. Does that mean that your data could still be discovered by sophisticated forensics that go in and figure out how to get at it? I guess what I'm saying, if you clean your hard drive with a reset, do I have to take and find my little hard drive and smash it with a hammer anyway?
Yeah, so what I traditionally use is called DBAN. It's just data wiping software. You would go to your computer, you would furiously hit F12 or F2 or F10, whatever your manufacturer specifies, to boot from a different device. You would boot it to a USB stick containing DBAN. You would then perform the DoD wipe, which is multiple passes with random ones and zeros in between. Whenever you do a reset, Macs actually do it by default, but on a Windows computer, whenever you do a reset, it kind of just wipes everything out. And yes, technically you can, or someone can use software to go in and recover that data, because when data is initially wiped, like for example, whenever you put something in the trash on your computer, it's not actually gone. Your computer just forgets where it's located in the storage, and you can use programs to go and find it. And an initial like one pass wipe is kind of similar to that, where it can still be recovered. That is why I unironically will take all of the computers that we're done with. I will take the hard drives out and I will give them to someone with a hammer, and they will go outside and hit them until the disks break or the solid state drive cracks. In fact, if you look at the website or the Google search I just did for DBAN, on the right hand side, I zoomed in too far, but one of the images also shows using a hammer on the hard drive.
Okay, so if you really want to get rid of all your data, you don't even have to worry about the wiping process. You just get the hard drive out of your machine and use a sledgehammer or a hammer, and away you go.
Yep, pretty much. Whenever you do one of the trade-in things for Staples or Best Buy, like Rebecca mentioned, generally what they'll do is they will use a hard drive shredder, which is basically just metal wheels or gears that just absolutely pulverize the hard drive. That being said, these are not hundreds, these are thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, and I have a hammer that was given to me. So highly encourage hammers.
Tim, if you have an old phone and you would still like to get phone data off, or phone numbers off of it, but you're no longer with that carrier, is there any hope of taking it in and them being able to open it for you?
Yeah, if you're nice to them, oftentimes they will have a tool that they're able to use with your consent to do that. That heavily depends on the phone, though.
Tim,
Unfortunately.
sorry. Tim, do printers have the ability to record what you're printing?
Yeah. They don't just have the ability, they do.
So when you get rid of a printer, do you have to wipe it clean somehow?
Yeah, you can do the oftentimes in settings they will have a factory reset option. The other thing you can do is printers aren't exactly, unless we're talking about like commercial copiers, printers aren't really designed to keep that information. It's more of a thing that's a byproduct of printing, is they just they get the file, they read the file, they print the file, and then they don't really bother to delete it. But if you unplug your computer or your printer from the wall and then press the power button a couple times, generally that's enough to kind of wipe out the temporary memory. But if you have a larger printer, like a copier, or a printer with a scanner, like a multifunction, there will be a little hard drive in there that you can take out and hit with a hammer a couple times. However, if you do that, the printer's basically dead at that point, because it's not as easy to replace the hard drive in a printer as it is in a laptop, for example. But yes, the documents are stored on the printer.
Thank you.
That being said, the printing solution that the town of Peterborough Library uses does not store your documents information on it, in case anyone wanted to think about that and open up that can of worms.
Good to know. Thanks, Tim.
Yep, it's one of the reasons we pay for it.
Yeah, I tried downloading all my photos and my external hard drive was full,
Mhm.
but one of the librarians didn't put my photos where she literally removed them from my camera. I lost all
Oh,
those
no.
photos.
Oh, that's a great point. Whenever you're doing transferring files, when in doubt, use copy. Don't use move or cut. If you use copy, the files or photos will be in both locations. If you use move or cut, if that process is broken in any really negative way, it's possible to lose all of that information on both sides because it took it from the original location and didn't put it in the new location. So copying is always safer.
So here at the library, even if you do that, at the end of the day, it's wiped out.
That is, yeah, anytime the computer is restarted, all of your data is wiped from it.
So Tim, a quick follow-up on taking my hard drive out and hitting with a hammer. I assume I would need to, again, I'm using Windows PC. On the old Windows PC, I would want to sign out of my Microsoft account before I take the hard drive out and hit it with a hammer if all my files are backed up with OneDrive.
Yep.
Okay, so that's a key step.
I know.
Because if I didn't do that and the hard drive was destroyed, would OneDrive then say, well, I can't sync files, so I'm gonna sync to erase everything?
So that unironically used to be a bit of a problem. They have now, quote unquote, fixed that, where not having the computer syncing the files to the cloud will no longer erase those files.
Okay, well, that's good to know, but I don't trust Microsoft, so I'm gonna do it for. So,
Yeah,
it's a glitchy, it's not, it's an ecosystem it has a lot of failure points to it. I think the Mac system is or the Apple system is a lot slicker.
Apple has spent a significant amount of time. No, I'm not saying adding more capability will feel more secure with the process. And they do that by being slightly more transparent or reliable about how things happen. The thing I will say about cloud backups like OneDrive, they are fantastic. I use them. I trust them. In their terms of service, they offer no guarantee to keep your data. If they
Right.
lose your data, you do not have a recourse to try and get it back apart from just their general help. They do not they do not put in writing that they are custodians of your data. So it hasn't happened to anyone I've met, hasn't happened to me in any capacity, but they do not, in their terms of service, they say that they're not in charge of your data.
So Tim, do you back up your OneDrive onto an external drive?
You can phrase it that way, yes.
Or,
Yep.
you know, you have a copy of your OneDrive in the event
Yeah.
that Microsoft has a meltdown or something.
Yes. If you want to go a little crazy, you can do something like Synology. This is the wrong direction, but where you can use a Synology device, which is a NAS device, and basically you can attach your cloud account to it, and then anything that goes in your cloud account also goes to your external hard drives. But it's not incredibly straightforward, and it can get expensive. But you don't pay licensing, so it's, you know, you just buy what you need and then you're good for 5-10 years. But if you're really really crazy about keeping your data, a device like this is oftentimes your best bet.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions? All right. Well, you know where Tim is tomorrow and on Wednesday, so always talk to him, or you can send me an email, and we'll see if we can answer that question for you.
Is it every Wednesday or once a month?
Every Wednesday. It is every Wednesday, June.
Pretty much every Wednesday.
Can you show up later than noon?